and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. We are back on the Anything But Everything podcast. I thank you everyone who's tuning in and listening in. I am here today actually for the first time with two guests as opposed to one. We are here to talk about something that is actually very, very current, something serious that's going on in the world. Let me first say that any piece of advice, any opinion, any statement that is made on the podcast is that which comes from not someone who's a professional therapist, shrink, or psychologist. However, it is very much real people just giving their real experiences, real thoughts on what they think about a situation, and how they're becoming better because of it. With that said, let me introduce both of my guests, both of whom separately have been on this podcast before, respectively. First, I have Dan. Dan, how you doing?
I'm good.
And secondly, my second guest, who also has been on the podcast separately, Jaime. Jaime, how you doing?
I don't know what day we're on anymore.
Yeah, fair to say that.
Me neither.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we all respectively have lost track of what day it is. But a little bit more on a serious note, as everybody knows, these are the times of the coronavirus. There is a pandemic going on, a very serious situation. It seems like everybody's lives has changed. Chances are if you had a job, you've been furloughed or laid off, or maybe you're still working but under different circumstances. Every time now people want to go out, they have to be wearing masks. The world has certainly changed. It's very serious. There are lives at stake. It is very much a life and death situation. However, on this podcast today, I wanted to get the guys together, and I just sort of wanted to talk about how we're all personally dealing with the coronavirus, because I know some people are in moments of distress or anxiety or maybe even depression. And I, along with Jaime and Dan, want to spread the message of, it'll be okay. While it seems very serious, and it is to a certain extent, this will pass. I personally feel like it's not the situation that happens to you, it's all about how you handle it. So, with that said, I first wanted to, pass this question on to you guys. Separately, how have you guys been dealing with, like I know you, Dan, you're still going to work, but I guess, Jaime, I'll start with you. How are you personally dealing with staying at home and just sort of living the home life while there's this pandemic going on? What has your experience been personally?
So, I can assume the date was like around the middle of March. And in particular to me, it was March 17th, 2020, when I was told by the people that I work with that I'm no longer going to be headed to work, not because I'm fired, but they have to reduce the cost of paying employees that they really can't afford to pay. So I kind of work for a company that's in charge of like helping people get their businesses off the ground in regards to like business cards or advertising and things like that. Yeah. And really when, a lot of people depend on like running their businesses in regards to restaurants or anything involving like people and crowds and gatherings, all of that comes to a halt for the people that I work with, because there's no need to like place orders for business cards or for flyers or anything like that.
Yeah.
Some people, like the designers of said things, got to kind of do their work from home. Others still have to go to the office. And in my division, we all got sent home. And from that day till about today, May 2nd, since this is the day we're recording, It's been something interesting because at first you're like, oh, I have more than weekends off now. I have 7 days off. And it comes out to something like, oh, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. It's been a while since I've had time to myself or time to really get things in order. And at first it feels great because you're getting all that time in the world, but then other things start to kick in like, oh, do I have enough money to afford this? Do I have enough money to really be able to eat or, afford my bills and things like that? And you don't let those things sink in until like it gets deeper and deeper into the time being that you're at home. I wasn't laid off, by the way. I should have mentioned this. I wasn't laid off. I was just told that my department isn't needed for the time being. I still have a job as soon as the economy decides to reset and get back and going.
Yeah.
It gets hard because, like, a lot of things that you used to have in rhythm have changed. A lot of things that you used to do in a pattern are different in regards to what normal day life is. You start sleeping differently. Your diet changes drastically. You start forgetting about the norms of everyday life and just acclimate like, oh, I don't have to wear like blue jeans and shoes. I could just wear sandals and PJs or, just be relaxed.
Yeah.
But even at one point, I've been feeling a little too relaxed and too much into my thoughts that sometimes some days are better than others. Other times it's just you wish you can get back into routine after a while,
Yeah.
Yeah, like the thing that really gets to me is seeing everybody that's an essential worker like having to go to work and just not one very thankful to all those people risking their lives and trying to make life better for all of us that can't work, even though we wish we could help them out. Two, it's terrifying because, like, people go to work and, like, they don't know who they're going to run into every day. I mean, yeah, they're protecting themselves with gloves and masks and social distancing and all that, but I just wish life would be easy for everybody. And I sometimes I feel like it could just get better,
Yeah. Yeah. Most, if not all, what you're saying is very, very relatable. I felt that way at one point or another. But I want to get a perspective from someone who, like you said, Jaime, is someone who, still has to go and work every day. Dan, you're still reporting to work. You're still out there. How has this whole experience been for you personally? What have you been feeling?
So I'm one of the people who, and it's one of those weird subjective things where I was lucky enough to get to keep working, even when the orders came through to actually start shutting stuff down. But then, of course, you've got a lot of places where initially, I'm sure people looked at it as, ooh, we get a little vacation, because I know that the way that it was working initially I work at a place that obviously was deemed essential, but initially they said, well, we're shutting down for the most part, but we're going to keep just enough people to start doing business a different way. And so they let most of the staff go home, and they were paid for 2 weeks. They were paid for 2 weeks to just stay home. Meanwhile, the rest of us were still scheduled to go to work, and we got a little pay increase, but even that, essentially at this point, is being offset by cutting hours further. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about the company's practices, but basically, they've limited everybody's hours, and then have us doing a portion of work from home, but the pay increase isn't on those hours. It's a shift differential thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually making less money now than I was before this all happened. So on one side, that's frustrating and stressful for somebody who's still working, who's essential, and especially since I'm one of the only people at our location that still directly interfaces with people's stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a retail setting, so people are still coming in, and we're still allowing returns, which I know Walmart and Target stopped doing for a while, or have stopped doing. I think it might still be going on. But so people were still allowed to bring stuff in, and then we were told, don't touch it for 4 days. And yet I'm still handling the stuff, organizing the stuff, and to be making less money now, especially when some of our furloughed workers went and did unemployment, and with the current $600 increase, I think it's $600 a week, right?
Yeah. Is it a week?
So I think it's an added on $600 per week, and so they're getting like the baseline of like $300 and the $600 bonus, so they're making more than me.
I see.
Which, God bless them, a lot of them kind of got the shaft. So it's been stressful all around, because then I'm at work and I'm watching people who were coming to work who were dedicated from day one, and then they still got hit by the furlough.
Yeah.
So seeing those people who you work with, you respect, you enjoy seeing come into work, and then they don't make the cut based on principle. Seeing people you care about get furloughed sucks. Now, on the flip side, I'm not furloughed. So I have to look at it, and I have to accept the good with the bad. Is great. It's a blessing that I'm not out of work, because I know a lot of people are.
Yeah.
But then you also look around and you see people you care about getting furloughed. You see these. I'm going to get a little agitated with this. You see these clowns in Michigan, in California, in what are the other states? New York, Virginia, going out in Florida, protesting these stay-at-home orders, which are in place to make sure that everybody's safe.
Yeah.
Because my parents are in the age range where they're high risk, and I have friends on social media who, I know them in real life too, but I have friends on social media who have contracted the virus, and some of them most of them have had a medium to low experience. Meanwhile, I have friends who have people who've died from it.
Wow.
So the whole situation is stressful and frustrating, and I know I get 3 days off a week, and those 3 days still give me a little bit of cabin fever. So I'm sympathetic of the people who aren't working and who aren't finding other things to do and are just sitting at home bored out of their mind, trying to just get by, counting pennies.
Yeah.
All of it.
So I kind of want to add it into what Dan was saying in regards to the people that are collecting like unemployment and furlough because of furlough and all that. This situation with a pandemic that's going on, it's become increasingly hard in states like California York, Florida, like your main big states that you have the biggest populations, to really get everyone paid weekly or bi-weekly or however this shit is working. The reason I'm saying this is because I'm in a situation where before I was told that I can't come back to work yet, I didn't have a job. So applying for unemployment, it was already annoying as it is, because it's like they treat you like, oh, why aren't you working? Why don't you want to work? First off, the process of filing for unemployment is annoying. Second, with this going on, it's quadrupled in the regards of everyone having to do it. And now that everyone has to, because of furlough and this craziness, it's even harder to reach out to someone to speak to. Like, oh, I made a mistake on my profile, or I made a mistake on my application in regards to this, or because unemployment is an annoying thing to do. I'm sure you guys have seen people get annoyed and frustrated with it.
Yeah.
And to some people, having to depend on this money because they can't go to work, you kind of feel bad for them. You do.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here. I was working until mid-April. It was at that point where I slowly started hearing that this store is closing temporarily, that store is closing temporarily. But we were still open. And it was kind of that time where you just started seeing an increase of people wearing masks and wearing gloves, and just from that, the whole working environment sort of changed. You could no longer go up to somebody whom you would hug every day and give them a nice warm hug and ask them how they're doing. You would kind of have to keep your distance and just talk, 6 feet away. And then, of course, I got, the phone call saying that, hey, we're going to furlough you. You can apply for unemployment until we see what happens. Which sort of put me in a place of concern and uncertainty. As I started staying home, and this is kind of where I want to get to the whole silver lining part, because that's what this podcast is all about, is we're going to go through tough times, but what do you take away from it? As I started sitting home, I thought to myself, you know what? Yes, there's a pandemic going on. It's very serious right now. You really don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. But what can I do? Because it's in these types of situations where it's truly out of your control. This is not something where you can go push a button and, everything is going to get fixed. And I mean, there is something that we can all do, which is, why they started, trending, stay home, stay safe. Like you guys said, a lot of people took exception to that. They'd rather be out and about protesting, sometimes even with weapons, which I don't think is the rational way of doing things. But that besides the point, I started thinking to myself, okay, well now I know for a fact that I have all this home time. What can I do? How can I be better? What can I do, that I've been wanting to do for quite some time? And no joke, there was actually 2 or 3 tasks that came to mind that I had just been putting off and putting off. And every time that I would think about doing these tasks, I would think to myself, oh, maybe some other time, maybe later, maybe next month, maybe next year. Let's put it to the side for now and we'll see what happens. Finally, when you're hit with all this home time, it's like, well, if there was ever a good time to take care of that one drawer you've been meaning to clean out, or if you've been meaning to go to the garage and organize and throw some stuff away and kind of, make the place look not so shabby, now would perhaps be a good time. Just small things like that, things that don't require you to go out. And secondly, when we detach from the physical stuff, I started hitting, all the mental and emotional stuff. And I actually have been doing a whole lot better, which kind of sounds ironic to say considering how we have a pandemic going on in the world right now. But in my mind, it was just sort of this thing of, okay, well, this is the situation at hand. It's kind of beyond my control. There's not really much I can do. other than to look out for my own protection and my own life. So I just started, working on myself mentally. And I know that might be overwhelming for some people right now because they're trying to focus on this pandemic. They're trying to focus on financial problems. They're trying to focus on when am I going to go back to work. And I understand that trying to focus on yourself mentally might be a little too much. But I've always been an advocate of baby steps, of just sort of assessing a situation and taking changing something. It could be something very small in your day. And I'm proud to report that mentally I've actually been in a very good place. Yes, Jaime, you're right. There are days where it becomes too much and some doubt creeps in and, or whatever it might be, some negativity creeps in. But all I've learned is that it's how you deal with it. Do you let a moment of negativity turn into, 2 weeks going down, a low point? Or do you take it as, okay, I'm kind of going through a stint right now. It is what it is. I'm just going to stay calm, cool, collected, stay level-headed, and just sort of move forward. That's just kind of how I've been experiencing this whole thing. Again, I myself don't know when I'll be going back to work. Do I miss my coworkers? Yes, I do. Do I miss being out there? Yes, I do. But I've sort of come to a moment of acceptance of this is right now, it is what it is. This is the situation at hand. How have the both of you, and I guess this time, Dan, we'll start off with you. How have you personally been, taking care of yourself? Or how have you personally been, trying to just stay focused, keep, a stable, a level-headed mindset throughout this whole thing? How have you been tackling that?
Well, I mean, it's not without its challenges. The nice thing that has come from this situation, as far as that goes, for somebody who's still working, is that they've restricted the hours. So it's not like we're going all the way until 9, 10 o'clock right now.
Yeah.
So I leave earlier in the day, which is refreshing versus what it was beforehand. And so that leaves me time to still be productive. Because if I'm walking, if my shift ends at 9, I probably don't leave the parking lot till 9:20. I don't get home till 9:45, and by then it's like, okay, well, my entire day's wasted. What do I do now?
Yeah.
But when I'm leaving at 6, I have time to run to one of these busy ass stores to pick up some groceries. I've been bad for a long time at physical exercise, but at least 3 times in the last week I've gone out. I've done some walking around a track near my house, and then getting some fitness in that way. So that's been nice.
Awesome.
And then from like a extracurricular productivity standpoint, from the time that this started, you know that I am trying to be a writer.
Yes.
And so I sat down one day and went, well, hell, I've got the time. And I put together 6 or 7 beat sheets to draft out my screenplay plots. So I've got a nice skeleton for a bunch of my movies now. So now I just need to sit down and write them, which is more pre-work than I've had done for a long time. I know I have two of my movies done, but that's essentially one project, because if one doesn't happen, neither does the other.
Right.
But no, it's using this, and I know I've seen a lot of social media posts that are the one school of thought that says, if you don't come out of this without a new skill or a new hobby or something, what are you doing with your life? And then you've got the other people arguing against that. I know that not everybody is going to find motivation or be able to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Before this happened, I was in sort of a depressive funk where I wasn't really doing anything.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to make the most out of your time and the situation. But if you can't, it's not the end of the world. Use the time to recharge your batteries. God knows we're all drained.
Yes.
Yes. Our society is not built on taking it easy.
So obviously, I'm in the situation where I guess in my job or line of work, I'm considered non-essential, which is fine. At first, like I said, like you're left with your like the ability, like, oh, time is on my hands now. Time is a construct that I can make good use of.
Yeah.
And I'm not on the boat of what Dan said in regards to like, oh, you know, if you don't come out of this with a new hobby or however the quote went, you know, you waste your time. Nor I'm on the side of the people who argue it. I'm on the side of like, hey, everyone can learn a hobby regardless of a pandemic or not.
Yes.
Everyone can do something different with their lives at any point in time.
Yes.
It shouldn't be that, oh, you have to be at this point in life at this age or know these traits at this age or whatever. But now that people have time, it's more or less of the, like, do I want to learn a new habit or a new, like, trait or a new skill set, or do I want to readjust and fix myself? Because in this, I found all the time in the world to, like, how do I fix me? How do I recharge the battery, like Dan said? You know, knowing that you have time to do it.
Yeah.
You know, at first it's like, oh, you know, let me catch up on sleep, you know, let me catch up on getting rested, you know, feeling better about myself. And then you, like, the little things, like, I've had enough time to finally rearrange, like, all the stuff in my room where, like, I have more room. I've gotten rid of some things that I don't need or didn't find in need of anymore. You know, I found time to really, like, catch up on, like, you know, writing, like, coming up with ideas for other stuff that I want to venture out on. And, you know, it's a good thing, too, because it's like you don't want to ever, you know, limit yourself to, like, oh, you have to do this, but you need to learn it ASAP. No, like, for people in my case, not knowing when you can go back, like, you can really plan out, like, okay, I'll learn step 1 of this today, and then tomorrow I'll jump into step 2 and 3, or, you know, you can plan out how you want to continue building yourself up.
Yeah.
Which is always a good thing. Plus, like, to all the people that are like dealing with this in other different ways of, like, overthinking or watching the news too much, like, I get it. You want to be up to date with how everything is going on in the world, but, like, you should also take the time to be up to date with yourself. Like, seriously take into consideration the me time.
Well said.
That you get. Because, like, you can be going back to work, like, immediately, you know, but then it's like, okay, well, how's a 24-hour day divided into a regular work day before all this? So, obviously, you need time to wake up, get ready for work, get your stuff ready. I don't know how long the commute is. We'll say all that takes an hour. You have 9 hours plus of being at work, which include your 1 hour lunch. And then your commute back from work is another hour. So that's what, 11 hours of a 24-hour day already?
Yeah.
And then it's deemed that you need at least 8 hours of sleep. So if you add in those 8 hours, that's 19. And then
I don't know the last time I got 8 hours of sleep.
yeah. But that's what I mean. Like, when you have a regular, like, job that you do 40-hour work weeks and then you don't make time for yourself or other things, you're in a position where you're just like, you know, what do I do? But obviously during this time, it's like, well, I can sleep 2 hours here, sleep another 12 here, or sleep 2, you know, because I'm sure
everybody's sleep patterns have been thrown off completely.
Yes.
More or less.
So it's like you find yourself in a position to like really find the me time to work on yourself in a positive light that you should take advantage of. Yeah, it's harder. It's easier said than done, but it's harder also not to try.
Very, very well said about keeping up to date with yourself. I really like that. Yeah, I can also relate. Relating to you, Dan, I myself have also been found, working on a few screenplays that actually, before there was a pandemic, I kept on telling myself, I gotta work on this, I should work on this, maybe I'll work on this, I'm kind of working on this, to, when the pandemic hit, I was like, okay, now I'm working on this. I think I've told you both separately, a tall task that I had been wanting to take care of, actually for a few years at this point. I had a whole bunch of old VHS cassettes that needed to be converted to digital, family birthdays, stuff of that nature. Even small things, like even just for the sake of keeping busy, organizing a part, of your room, like you said, Jaime, going out for, a small walk, moving around, maybe trying something that you've been wanting to try out for a while and just have never, put the time or energy into doing so. Because I know we're always talking about how we're busy, there's not enough hours in a day, I don't have time, and this and that. And in my mind, it's like, okay, well, now it's a very good opportunity for everybody to recharge their batteries, kind of break away from routine, everyday routine, and to focus on something new. You can still focus on, things that you would do on a daily basis, that's fine. But if there was ever a time, to, for example, start trying to learn a new language, or maybe trying to play an instrument, maybe you have the instrument, in the corner of your room, but never touch it because you're working or busy or life is just going too fast. Now would be the good time.
I have a saxophone I haven't played in years.
But yeah, I just think, once again, even though you said it, Jaime. Sometimes it's not easy, but sometimes what's much more harder is not trying and sort of being in status quo all the time. I encourage everyone, to the listeners, you want to stay up to date with the news, that's fine. But, like you said, take a moment to be up to date with yourself. How can you make yourself better? If you've been stressing out about this nonstop, what's one thing that you can change? Maybe when
turn off the television or change the channel is one.
Yeah, no, in all honesty, that is a simple solution, instead of waking up in the morning and, thinking to yourself, here we are, another day, a part of this pandemic, maybe wake up in the morning and say, what's one thing I can be grateful for today? What's something that I still have? Because I gotta tell you guys, like, I find not only myself, but other family members, we wouldn't talk to each other for, long periods of time. And now more than ever, and keep in mind, the technology has been there, for years now. But now more than ever, I find myself Facetiming with my family, or, going on a Google Duo four-way call with you guys, while we're watching a TV show or something. It's not as good as being there physically with the other person, but I mean, it's a good way to kind of meet yourself in the middle. It's better than nothing. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's very easy to get up in the morning, go to sleep at night, just worrying, and having your mind race, thought after thought after thought. But what's actually easy, but a lot of people don't realize, is one small thing that you can do to change the rhythm of your day, to change the routine that you put yourself in every single day. So, with all that said, do you guys have any closing remarks about anything that we've talked about here today, or something that you guys want to add?
If you are a Star Wars fan who is struggling to find things to do during this pandemic time and haven't done it yet, the 7th and final season of Clone Wars has been stellar, so check it out.
There you go, that's one thing. Jaime?
If you found yourself really wanting to have the urge to learn a new instrument or start an art project or a podcast or anything in the creative senses, don't be afraid. Just everyone fails at something new. All it takes is practice, and you'll get better at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to throw in, I don't want anybody to be under the mindset of, oh, the second when the pandemic is over, I can stop learning because that was only filler. It's not filler, it's just, once again, making yourself better is something that you do whether there is or is not a pandemic. My closing remarks about this whole thing is all I can tell everybody is that, being in and out of, good times and bad times, much like everybody else, in this short period amount of time, I've realized that, so many small steps that you can take to, not focus on the negative, but to instead embrace the positive. Even though in moments and in times like this where it can be very, very tough, when you're forced to stay home and you're furloughed and you don't know financially or job-wise where things are going to end up, it can be very difficult. But all I've come to know is that sitting at home and stressing about it really doesn't change anything, especially when it's something that's beyond your control. So I invite everybody, if there's a task that you've been meaning to take care of, if there's an instrument that you've been wanting to learn, or even something like learning a new language, embracing yourself in new genres, whether it comes to music or movies or TV shows or what have you. Now it seems like most people have all the time in the world to do so. And that's my 2 cents. So, with all that said, once again, Jaime and Dan, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. I thank all the listeners for listening in and tuning in. I apologize, it's been a while since we've posted up an episode. Not really sure when the next one will come, but just stay tuned. Once again, thank you so much for listening. We hope that everybody is staying home and staying safe. And let's get through this together. We'll see you guys next time.